What do we want? New players. When do we want them?
No.
Now. This is Locked On Twins, and we're going to pound the table for the players we want to see the Twins add this offseason. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. It's Brandon Warren making his not very anticipated return to the left side of the screen. Although I don't know if my friend here, Dave Brown, @answer Dave Brown on the tweets, answered Dave on the skeets. I don't know if you noticed, but I had to flip-flop us early in our last episode.
I saw it happen, but I don't ask questions. I just keep talking until I've stopped.
I know nothing and I see nothing. Well, that voice that you hear is Mr. Dave Brown. He has been in the BBWA since 2012, writing about baseball at large since 1998, and we'll have his second Hall of Fame ballot experience this offseason. We've
not voting for Joe Mauer this year, though.
Boo! Classic Joe. Not starting on an afternoon game after a night game. That was one of the gripes from fans over here. But thank you for tuning in to Locked On Twins. As I stated, I'm Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. And if you want to slide on over to BlueSky, I'm at Warren, just my last name, whatever it is. Still haven't committed that to memory, Dave. But yeah, anyway, thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, because we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which makes us your team every day. If you can hear it in my voice, I am a little under the weather, kind of my yearly squall with something in my respiratory system, Dave. So I'll do my best to maintain my voice and try to not sound too raspy. But
I think you sound professional, though, right now. It doesn't sound ill. It sounds like a pro.
It sounds maybe like when Phoebe's sick on Friends and her singing voice gets so much better. And then when she gets better, she gets worse at singing, and then she tries to get sick again. Not that I would ever try to get sick, but I can hear it too. It's a little deeper, a little richer.
That's right.
Yeah. By the way, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if that $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And Dave, today, and in fact, to let people peek behind the curtain, we'll probably actually record these on the same day too. We're going to bang the table for our favorite MLB players for the Twins to acquire. Now, I almost said free agents, but if I'm honest, only one of mine is a free agent. It'll be the first one because I'm actually going to go backwards on the list that people might see on the screen here. I want to save the best for last. And if you can't see it, the last bullet point, well, the first bullet point is a legit ace. And I want to bring that to you, Twins fans, this off season. So, yeah, I mean, we can pretty much dive right in. Dave, we swapped names, or at least I sent you mine, and there's not going to be any overlap. We can also assure fans of the show that they're going to get 10 unique names.
That's true. I was worried that we would have we'd copy each other, particularly maybe with one name or two. And I didn't even. I started with free agents, and I only have one player who would require a trade. So we have sort of not mirror image. Is that what a mirror image really is? Where it's like
more Freaky Friday than anything.
Yeah, something like that. So we have a variety of people to pique your curiosity about how we make the Twins better this offseason. Probably none of this is going to happen, but hey, it's a podcast about the Twins. What else are you going to do?
It's still fun to me. It's still real to me, like the old wrestling fan. So, yeah, we're starting at the bottom. Now we here. Started at, I just thinking of that song. Dave is acting like
he's with who? Who are we starting with?
Yasmani Grandal is my Vazquez replacement. Sorry to shout. I'm just so excited about it. Instead of pounding the table, I'm just raising my spirits, consistent with this time of year. Yeah, so Yasmani Grandal, I'm bringing in as a switch hitter, first of all. So he gives you a look from both sides of the plate. His offense was acceptable last year. 95 weighted runs created plus. Gone are the days of the 110, 115, 120. But it was a nice bounce back season for him with the Pirates. I suspect better teams will be interested in him. But I think, he's going into his age 36 season. The defense looked respectable last year. If I'm trading Christian Vazquez, and I think for anything to work on my list, you'd almost have to, I think you could bring in Grandal cheaper. Now, I would have been a little less certain of that before Travis d'Arnaud signed with the Angels, because he got like $6 million a year. And I don't know how you could sell Grandal as a better player over the next year plus than d'Arnaud. So I think you could probably come in right around that number on a 1-year deal and secure Grandal services. Would you agree?
I maybe. I don't have any idea sometimes how these salaries work.
It's true.
What they do. It's very hard to figure out the logic or the flow to it, or if this guy gets that, well, then that means this guy's going to get that. There's a certain amount of truth in that probably, but then there's also a certain amount of mystery. And Grandal had a very odd season. He had lots of injuries early in the year. Most of that 95 runs created plus is end of the year catching up. He started out very slow, ended very strong. Can still frame a pitch. He's getting old, but you would think that you could get him a little cheaper than Vazquez, or maybe use that Vazquez money to get something else, and then bring in Grandal.
From a 1 to Kyle Farmer scale, how bad did he start the season?
Oh, it was like that. Yes,
yeah.
It was a Kyle Farmer. It looked like he was toast. It looked like he was completely cooked. But he came on at the end, and it was when the Pirates, were playing well, he wasn't. And then when they stopped playing well, except for Skeens, I guess, Grandal picked it up toward the end just to
sounds suspiciously familiar to this team.
Sure. So it's he was with the White Sox, and he was pretty good. He I don't know if the reporters got it. The reporters didn't seem to get along with him. Not that necessarily matters, but I don't think he's a bad clubhouse guy or anything like that. But I don't know if he's still got a reputation for being kind of irritable, and if the Twins, he's not a kind of a happier dude like Vazquez. He's kind of a little more of a sourpuss. So you got to factor that in as well. That's very unscientific analysis, but
I mean, if you're making a change too, maybe you do the opposite. Fantasy football legend Paul Charchian around here says, do the opposite. It would be, it would be the opposite in that respect for sure. He's very strange career, Yasmani Grandal, but a long time ago, PED passed, but he's avoided that ever since. So I wouldn't be totally against this. That was a guy when I looked at, well, how can we fix or improve the Twins position by position? If you look at catcher, that's one of the guys that I would have on my short list. He might not be the guy. I still kind of like Danny Jansen because he's younger. He's 30 years old, but but he had a very bad year. He didn't have any final kick at the end to get his stats up at all. He was bad. I wonder if it was a broken bone in his hand that didn't made that season impossible. But Grandal's he's not bad. I don't know if I would pound the table for him, but I'd pound better for Danny Jansen to have a broken hand than Reese McGuire. If they were teammates for a brief spell there. Actually, I think they DFA'd McGuire when they brought in
Danny Jansen. They did, yeah.
And then I said that's a jerk move, and then huge sigh, huge groan from the Twitter faithful. Let's see here. The last four that I have, and I think we'll do our first break here. The last four I have would all require trades, but for one reason or another, I find each of them particularly fetching. So let's do our first break here, and then when we come back, we'll knock down the next four, preferably in order.
All right.
Well, you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with a America's #1 sports book, which is FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5, and if they win, get $150 in bonus bets. That's that FanDuel app. It gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, want to check out some stats, live play-by-play, you can do that all on the same place that you place your bets. Same page, everything. It's FanDuel.com. Visit there to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. Once again, that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave. So we're working backwards here, and I'm sure people will want to go, like if you're trading for someone, to go young. I'm not sure, though, that you have that luxury. And when your needs for the Twins are a little bit unique, I think it's going to wind up being trades for guys people maybe don't know much about, or for prospects who they know more about than the player coming back, which sows discontent on social media. So I'll talk a little bit about what it's going to cost to get these guys, but it's all such a broad brush. It's also abstract that we'll just kind of gloss over it if that's okay.
That's fine with me.
So this guy hits right-handed. He is going to be he just turned 33. He has 1 year left at $8 million, or at least that's the AAV on his deal. And so not particularly young, but plays first base, has played elsewhere, and is kind of like a younger version of the guy he'd be replacing. Any guesses? Actually, no, you wouldn't have to.
I've cheated. I mean, you've sent me the list of players already, so okay. Let me just say this. He could be a dandy of a player at first base. Let me think of that.
A dandy player named Yandy. That's Yandy Diaz, by the way. So it will be a trade situation. He signed a 3-year deal worth $24 million. So again, $8 million per year, which is up after this season. Not as young as you might think, because I guess I thought maybe 31, 32. Not that 33 is that much older, but people forget he came up with the Guardians and he couldn't lift the ball, and so he'd get on base but wouldn't slug. And then got flipped to Tampa Bay for I don't even remember what it was. Now that it's 6,
one home run in his first 2 seasons. In the
very Kirby Puckett-esque. But that's where the similarities end. Diaz, I don't know about his reputation at first, because on Fangraphs, you're going to get negative defensive value no matter what. But a right-handed bat, takes his walks, although that dipped a little bit this year, doesn't strike out, and at his best will pop a few homers and a few doubles. I don't know if 2023 is ever going to happen again, but his 2-year stretch from 2022 to 2023 was pretty outstanding. Makes a lot of contact. We'll see where the walks go from here, but again, not striking out. I don't know if there would be a better fit atop this Twins order if they're not bringing back Carlos Santana.
He would be a good player to have in the lineup for sure. His defense is not as good as his offense. He's not a classic first baseman anyway, kind of in any respect. I think he's like he said, when he came up with Cleveland, I think he started at third. I think that was his first position.
He hasn't played there in a while. It's not an option.
No. He's not going to do that now in his early 30s. I'm just saying he's not a – sort of like Santana, not a natural first baseman. Santana was a catcher when he came into the league. Interestingly enough, I don't know how this fits in, and this is hard to parse, but he was actually traded. He was set in a deal for Santana. Traded as part of a 3-team trade by the Indians with Cole Sulser. The Rays sent cash to the Mariners. The Rays sent Jake Bowers. There, that guy is again. The Guardians. The Mariners sent Carlos Santana and cash to the Indians. The Indians sent Edwin Encarnacion and a competitive balance pick to the Mariners. Imagine Jerry DiPoto sitting in the. Was he there 6 years ago? Because man, that's got his name written all over it. That's his MO. A 3-team deal. Just getting in a room with some guys. That's probably at the winter meetings, December 13th, 2018.
The Jerry DiPoto, that's lowercase p. There's no capital P in that one.
No, there isn't. I learned that the hard way in fantasy baseball times.
I bet.
So, this is it's a very Twinsy move.
And they like with the Rays.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got when we do my version, my Taylor's version,
Mhm.
I've got them addressing first base as well. So I haven't given you my list, but there's a first baseman on it. So we're thinking alike here. Yandy is, the thing I liked about Carlos Santana was that he was locking down the infield defense at first base when they had a bunch of different guys playing short because Correa didn't play the whole season, a million guys playing second, Royce Lewis, third base, Jeffers, whenever Jeffers would play a catcher. So I like the idea of the stabilizing force of Carlos Santana playing defense. I don't know if Yandy is as a stabilizing force on defense, but as a presence, as a guy, maybe even a dude in the clubhouse, he ranks highly. I think that, that's a guy where Grandal is just kind of probably going to be along for the ride. Diaz would, I think, pretty quickly turn into a leader on the Twins. Not that they need it, but I think he would fit in well as a effervescent personality and a leader and that kind of thing. So I think he brings something to the table in that respect. Maybe, I mean, he and Nelson Cruz are different personalities, but sort of how Nelson Cruz did as far as gravitas and that kind of thing. He's a gregarious, a guy named Yandy. Yasmani sounds like a gregarious guy, but he's not really. Yandy's a little bit gregarious. So I like the extra things that the extra intangibles that Yandy brings to the table.
Wouldn't be the first time that Yasmani Grandal was along for the ride. Didn't he have a year with the Dodgers where they didn't trust him to catch and the postseason at all? And like Austin Barnes.
That's true.
Started.
I remember that narrative explicitly. Yes,
7-8 years ago. But anyway, yeah. So, I used to get Grandal confused with Yonder Alonso, and that was more just a proximity thing. And the Wise, I'm not wise for screwing up the Wise. Anyway,
the White Sox got confused with Yonder Alonso when they signed him to bring in Manny Machado at third base, but they forgot to offer Manny Machado a contract. That was the key thing about that transaction. That we got your cousin, but there will be no money. But on your deathbed, you'll have total consciousness, and your cousin will be there too. So that was the offer the White Sox made to Manny Machado. He did not take it.
It's always about money. You have to offer some. So the next player on my list is on a team that appears to be rapidly trying to shed payroll. That's the Cardinals. No sooner did the Cardinals trade for Eric Fetty than I think the Twins should say, listen, we wanted him at the deadline. He signed reasonably cheap. You're trying to, get rebooted, which I don't think is a terrible idea. There's nobody in the Central you have to be imminently afraid of in the medium term. So a quick retool might make some sense. But anyway, the Cardinals, I think the way they're going to tear down or at least break down, Eric Fetty for me is a target. I think it's $7.5 million and then free agency. Not particularly young because he was overseas, but I don't care that much about that. I want someone who stabilizes the front-ish end of my rotation. I think we have it as Twins people better than we realize with Pablo, Ober, and Ryan. In fact, I saw fantasy baseball rankings and Pablo and Ober were in the top 23. I don't think people realize how good Bailey Ober is. Not that fantasy and reality are the same, but just play along. So with that said,
I think there's a good chance that Joe Ryan would be in the top 25, had he finished the season.
I have him ahead of Ober and bump Ober down one. I think the Twins have three very good starters and they have a bunch of interesting kids. How do you sort through them? I would rather sort through just one spot with the kids. Also, too, if you had even the existing three and Eric Fetty, it'd be pretty hard for anybody in the division to match you toe for toe starting pitching wise. I mean, there'd be a conversation. The Royals, if they trade Singer, maybe things change a little bit. And the Guardians, their starting pitching doesn't really stand up. It's more their bullpen. You have a pretty easy case to make that the Twins rotation is the best in the division if you added a guy like Fetty, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think so. I'm thinking about, I don't think the Guardians are going to bounce back with better pitching. And
I mean, we've been saying this all year, and look at us. But I agree. I don't think
the Guardians. Yeah, Brandon, I don't think the Guardians are going to hold on here. They're going to run out of gas anytime now.
Yeah.
It's December. It's January. Boy, Brandon, I don't know about these Guardians.
I don't think they're going to keep winning like they have been. I don't think it's another
Well,
reference.
I'd keep playing. The heavy stuff's not going to come down for a while.
Exactly, boy. You've shoehorned two Caddyshack references into one episode. Nicely.
We are thinking alike though, because I like the idea of the Twins improving the first half of their rotation. Not that it needs improving, but if they're going to add a pitcher, I don't think a fourth or a fifth starter, a lower end fourth or a fifth starter would make sense, because I think they kind of have that already, or they have young players. Yep. I think, but I like top down kind of thing. Not to give away any of your future guys, or mine, but we both have in mind helping the rotation from, let's say, 3 to 1, the number 3, number 2, number 1 starters. So we're Fetty would have been a great guy to bring in his free agency. Let's not, fight that battle all over again. But I think you could get him pretty reasonably in a trade. Although the White Sox trading for Fetty, I don't remember it being reasonable for them. I don't think they got very much out of that deal. I think the Dodgers and the Cardinals put 1 over or 2 over on the White Sox. So I don't know if that means getting Fetty from the Cardinals would be difficult, but I don't see any reason why with the way it appears that they are retooling that they would keep him. So maybe it would be a competitive field, but I still think you could get him.
Yeah, unless you're really in on Miguel Vargas, that trade doesn't make much sense from the White Sox perspective.
I was into Miguel Vargas 4 years ago, but then I kind of watched Miguel Vargas not do anything. Remember how Yandy Diaz wasn't hitting any home runs? Yeah, Miguel Vargas still isn't hitting any home runs. So, and he doesn't have a defensive position. And you threw in Chris Getz on me the other day, and now you're talking about Miguel Vargas. I don't want to hear this White Sox stuff. Let's move on. Eric Fetty.
Oh, I thought you were gonna, because I was trying to think of an old timey comp for him, but we continue on. We press on.
I don't think about Miguel Vargas.
True. The next one for me is a solid lefty, Nestor Cortez, and he was a 3.1 Fangraphs WAR pitcher this year. Did the thing he needed to really provide added value, which was knock the home run rate down. He's had stretches. 2022, he allowed less than a homer per 9. He's at 141 for his career, which is slightly elevated. I think you want 125 to 13 for league average. So he was right around league average. Does not throw the heck out of the ball, but 92 from the left side is more than respectable. And I don't know. This is a vibes thing for me. I just got the sense that they didn't have as much invested in him as they had some other pitchers in the postseason and might be willing to make a move, to better support whether it's, a different need on the team.
It was kind of definitely a strange ending of a season when Aaron Boone put Cortez in a very high leverage situation against the Dodgers in the World Series, and it did not work out. I guess I could see where he was going, but if you look at the bigger overall picture with Cortez, 30 years old now, he's got a 3.80 ERA in 568 career innings, 575 strikeouts, 100 and I need my bifocals, my progressives, 160, walks. And you mentioned the home runs. He's given up 89 home runs in 568 innings. Yeah, sometimes he has trouble, other times less so. Actually, the times when he's had a lot of home run trouble, it's maybe the smaller sample size seasons where he hasn't had a lot of innings. Like 2 years ago, 63 innings, 11 home runs allowed, 66 innings, 16 home runs allowed. That was 2019 when everyone had a Bumba squad.
The 2021 is really funny. 7.04 homers per 9 because he threw.
Oh my God, 25. Oh geez, that's like Burt Blyleven would kill for that in 1987. I tell you that. Yeah. But I like him in a Fetty kind of way. Yeah. A top 3-ish starter. He'd be a very good number 4 starter, and that would help the team for sure. You and I are on the same page as far as if they are adding anybody, adding somebody. I think any baseball team, any Major League Baseball team, adding someone with 5 or 6 good innings, that is definitely something that could be a money ball kind of thing. Finding value where stuff is overlooked. I think it would not hurt to add somebody like Eric Fetty.
Yeah. I think either of those two are
I'm
good.
sorry, Nestor Cortez.
No, it's all good.
Either one of them.
I think, and this also hinges on if you are pretty sure you're not going to sign like Jose Quintana in free agency. Because, I mean, the prototype of Cortez is somewhere between, I'd say, Quintana on the top end and like Hector Santiago on the bottom end. Because Santiago had some weird years where he'd strike out a guy per inning and have like a 3 ERA. But you'd look at it and you're like, oh. And I loved Hector as a dude, but it just wasn't there for him with the Twins, and that was kind of that. That's kind of, he's somewhere in between there. I think, though, you get him in a pitching strong organization like the Twins, and maybe not that the Yankees were bad, but if you can at least keep him the version he was in New York, especially because right field is going to probably play a little bigger than it did in New York, keep some balls in the yard. You got a ready-made number 3 starter.
Yeah, for sure. And I do like we're not talking about Quintana, but if the Twins are allowed to spend money on free agents, I think that would be a guy to go out and get for one season for sure. I mean, anybody that can get you through 6 innings so you don't have to use all of your bullpen every gosh darn day.
Yeah,
that just it kills them. It kills them. It kills me to watch because it's like, all right, let the guy have your offense score some runs, dummy. Don't worry about. Don't go and be a team where if we give up 2 runs, we're dead, and that's a terrible way to live.
Yep.
Give up some runs and score more.
Live a little, huh? The last guy on my list is a player the Twins actively tried easy for me to say, tried to trade for as a rookie back in 2019, and they were rebuffed by the team who had this player, and the team said, no, we're not trading that guy. And then like a week later traded him to Arizona for Jazz Chisholm Jr. Yes, that's right. I'm talking about Zach Gallen. The Twins really wanted Zach Gallen. In fact, he faced them in one of his few appearances as a Marlin, and then I think his next appearance was with the Diamondbacks after the trade. But Derek Falvey actually told us that one day. He's like, we were trying to get Gallen, and the Marlins were like, no, we're not moving him. And then what the Twins could have offered that was as good as Jazz Chisholm back then, that's neither here nor there. That's 5 years ago. He's a Yankee now, for all we know. But you know what I mean? I think this front
office... Was it Nick Gordon?
No. Hey, I'm no longer blocked by him on Twitter. That is the perk to starting a new account. So
look on the I got to turn over a new leaf. Oh, that's right. You went an end around. Okay.
Yeah, so it means he just hasn't figured it out yet. Anyway, Zach Gallen, going to be a free agent after next year, going to be in his age 29 season. This is a spot where I would be looking to extend a guy, Pablo Lopez style, with the caveat that the expectation has to be you're going to add payroll again sometime. If that's not the case, then I guess what are we even doing with this show? You know what I mean? If we can't talk about moving some money around to accommodate a guy who would definitely be your number 1 or 1B starter, I don't know if I prefer Gallen to Lopez, but they're both very, very good. If you can't have conversation like that of that's in the cards, there's just no point in doing anything trying to figure out what this team is doing. So Gallen to me, strikeout per inning, doesn't really walk anybody. That jumped up just a little bit this year, gets enough grounders, and has been durable-ish the last 3 years.
They you mentioned Pablo Lopez. They are in a similar tier.
Yep.
TIER, and perhaps emotionally TEAR.
You haven't lost it, Dave.
He's I can't find it. So, why bother losing it if you don't know where it is in the first place?
Right.
He's definitely the best pitcher that we've been talking about before, and I think he's a better pitcher than I had in mind on any of my pitching possibilities. But that's a guy, if you could help the top of the rotation, that would be really something amazing. Now, I don't know. You mentioned what were the Twins going to give up in 2019 that was Jazz Chisholm-esque, and we don't know. I don't know. Is this going to cost Emmanuel Rodriguez?
That's the issue. Yeah, you're probably going to have to trade at least one prospect you don't want to, like Luke Keeschel, and then more. I don't. It's not that I don't think teams are going to ask for Emmanuel Rodriguez. I just think it'd be tough for the Twins to do that with their question marks in center field with Buxton and beyond. So I'm not saying the available sign has been entirely removed, but I get it's kind of implied he's probably not going anywhere.
And Walker Jenkins is not.
Same kind of deal, but then again, I mean, you got to pay to play. Although I feel like some of the deals we've seen in recent years have been a little leaner than maybe we would have expected too. Not a lot of crazy high Matt Laporta style prospects getting moved.
Also, something to keep in mind: the Diamondbacks are weird. They sort of go from, yeah, let's pay for some players, Jordan Montgomery, to everybody is for sale, and you just never know what you're going to get with them. I think, what?
We're going to spend money, Jordan Montgomery. Everyone's for sale. Also, Jordan Montgomery. It's like a Simpsons bit.
Yes, it is. I was thinking more Paul Goldschmidt when they moved him.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, it is kind of a Simpsons bit. Their owner, Ken, I forget what the rest of his name is. He looks like the tall man from Phantasm. That's not really a compliment, but he's kind of a big, tall, creepy dude.
I can see his face, but I can't think of it.
Ken Kendrick.
Yep.
Ken Kendrick?
That sounds right.
If I say it a third time, will he appear?
Yep, Ken Kendrick.
Ken Kendrick. Nope, I'm not dead. So, like, my point there is, though, you catch them at the right time, you know, they'll move a guy. They have a very – I really like their front office manager combination. Hazen is one of the better GMs in the league, and Torey Lovello is he's like a perfect Rocco. He's like what Rocco wants to evolve into someday as a manager. And it's just a great combination. And they didn't make the playoffs this year. They led the league in runs scored, but didn't make the playoffs. So does that indicate to me a team that should trade their ace pitcher?
Yeah.
No, but the Diamondbacks don't have to make sense. So I'm sure Gallen is out there for us, possibly.
They make enough sense when you compare them to other that era franchise teams, such as, may I interest you in the Colorado Rockies, who make no sense at all.
Yeah.
Or even the Marlins, for that matter.
That division is kind of strange. I mean, even the Padres are weird, but the Padres are they're in win mode right now, and the Diamondbacks are kind of like, do we want to be like the Padres? Do we want to? We have the Dodgers in our division. Is this really worth it to do?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Why are
Get
we
back to us tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, let's reconvene for another episode here. So he's Dave Brown. I'm Brandon Warren. And speaking of tomorrow, we'll Casilla
tomorrow.
Night.
Alexei.